Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me to join you today. I came down thinking I was going to meet a bunch of people associated with a community fitness and wellness center that I've admired for a long time. But I've met a lot more than that tonight. You are clearly a family, and it is so powerful to see that. Not only are you a family of parents and children, a theme that we've seen through the evening tonight, you're a family of friends that have come together and supporting each other. And heck, you even have clients getting married to each other. Aaron and Kara, just here, round of applause for that. So I will say that this is a really special honor for me. As Matt mentioned, I was 11 years old when my father had his spinal cord injury. At the time of his accident, he was known around the world as Superman. And our family, him, my stepmother Dana, my older brother, and my younger brother Will, who was almost 3 at the time, were one of the most active families that you can imagine. In the blink of an eye, the spook of a horse, our lives turned upside down. And suddenly we felt like we were in an entire new universe trying to navigate this landscape all alone. I remember so clearly the attitude that my father took to his injury, and it is an attitude that I've heard again and again tonight, including in hearing Lisa and Amanda's story and the story of so many others of you, which was that for him, he wasn't going to take no for an answer. He was going to get smart and do his research, and he was going to figure out how to make life better for himself and for the millions of people living with paralysis around the world. For him, it was a passion, it was a mission. And I remember as a kid, so you were 7, I was 11, similar thing. My pinky was maybe a little bit too big, but I still did it anyway. The way that we spent our time was that we would hold up those medical journals that he was reading. This is 1995, so not too much internet research happening, more of the printouts of medical journals. And we would sit there for hours with our arms up so that he could read them. And eventually he actually gave us a break and we bought a music stand that he could put his papers on, which made things much easier for all of us. But again, with all the force of his strong will, he was determined to change his situation and the prospect that he was hearing from these doctors who looked at patients like him and said, "You're not going to see any improvement. Your life is never going to be the same again." So fast forward many years later, my father is no longer with us. He passed away in 2004. But the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation has grown from strength to strength, carrying that mission forward, and it's something that we continue to do with our own deep passion to this day. In the time since his injury, we've given away over $140 million to support research into spinal cord injury. Other families that run the Reeve Foundation and continue to support its work and make it the international organization that it is. We've supported $22 million for quality of life programs around the country, including Paralyzed Veterans of America, who just received a grant here in the Florida chapter this year, to support initiatives to get people active out in their communities, to promote accessibility in people's homes, job trainings, accessibility vehicles, and everything else you can think of to help people live a more active and happy life. We also... Our Paralysis Resource Center serves as the nation's resource center for people living with all forms of paralysis. It's literally a phone bank of people that you can call, many living with paralysis themselves, to help answer questions about navigating Medicaid and insurance, about returning to work, about adapting your home, and other questions and challenges to help people feel less alone. And we have peer support networks, family mentoring, and a whole other bunch of programs that I hope you'll learn about. But amongst all of these efforts, and it is an overwhelming amount of effort, but between all of these efforts, one of the achievements that we really are most proud of is the community of centers we have built that are delivering gold standard activity-based therapy to people in their communities in the here and now. And that center is like Next Step Orlando. My father knew firsthand just how important it was to stay physically active after his injury. Even though he was paralyzed from the neck down, he spent hours each weekday and weekend committed to physical activity. Whether it was standing on a tilt table, using electrical stimulation to help his legs push a stationary bike, or suspended in a harness over a treadmill to do gait walking, we saw the benefits to his body. Better circulation, stronger bones, fewer skin breakdowns, and over time, increased sensation below the level of his injury. But far more than that, we also saw the benefit to his mind. Keeping his body active and healthy, he felt better. He felt empowered. I must have been 12 or 13 at the time, but I'll never forget watching him up in the harness over the treadmill for the first time. And I was there standing at him, and you said that your dad is 6'3". Mine was 6'4", gave an inch on you. I have a couple inches, you can see where it came in my jeans. I remember standing there looking at him, being so amazed by this transformative therapy that he was doing. And he just laughed. The only thing he could focus on was that he'd forgotten how much taller he was than everybody else in the room. His smile lit up the entire exercise room that day. The power of this therapy is really, really important. Now, the work that's happening here at Next Step is part of a much bigger story, and for some of you this is familiar, but for others it may not be, so I hope you'll indulge me as I talk a little bit about it tonight. A few years after my dad began doing physical therapy, he realized the need for a network of fitness centers where people could access this type of therapy in their communities while continuing their daily lives. Our Neuro recovery network of centers, just like the Next Step Orlando Center, was born. The network currently has 8 community sites and 5 rehab hospitals. Wow. I'll project. Can you hear me? Yes. Can you guys hear me? Okay, you're my target. If you can hear me, everyone else can too. Okay. So the network currently has 8 community sites and 5 clinical rehab centers across the country. But now, medical research is showing us that this activity is far more important than we even thought. A few years ago, more than that, about 15 years ago, we began investing in research that combines physical activities done at facilities like this one with additional interventions. The specific treatment is called epidural stimulation, literally electrical stimulation of the spinal cord, delivered through a small transmitter that can be embedded in the skin or placed over the skin. The device excites the nervous system to become more receptive to signals from the brain and from the muscles, which are then trained through rigorous physical activity. It's a pretty simple concept, but the early results we're seeing in patients with spinal cord injury in particular are remarkable. You may have seen some of the stories in USA Today of patients that are standing and even taking steps as a result of this therapy, years after being told they could never walk again. Now, the caveats. It's an experimental treatment in a small group of people, and their steps are limited. As one of the clients participating in the trial has said, I'm taking a few slow steps with a walker and sitting back in my chair. I'm not racing around my apartment doing the cleaning. But the implications are really important. And even for those who aren't taking steps, the health outcomes of people participating in physical therapy are remarkable. Patients are better able to regulate their blood pressure. They're seeing improved bone density. Some are regaining bowel and bladder control. Now, those things sound like a dry list when they're read aloud like that, but I know that many of the people in the room today and their families understand the huge impact they can have in people's lives. I was visiting researchers that we fund at the University of Louisville who are running the main trial in this a few weeks ago. And I spoke to a young man who was participating in this therapy, using the electrical stimulation device and doing a few hours of activity-based therapy every day. For him, it's locomotor training up on the treadmill. He explained to me that with the stimulator on and combined with physical therapy, his blood pressure control has been transformed. For the first time since his accident, it means he doesn't need full-time in-home care. With his blood pressure controlled, he can sit up long enough to do the dishes, to do the cleaning, and to transfer himself in and out of bed, just from improved blood pressure. So, where are we now? At the Reeve Foundation, we are deeply focused on getting FDA approval for this epidural stimulation. We are running a trial with 36 patients at the University of Louisville to test for safety and efficacy, and that's where we're seeing the results that I just described. In addition, the Reeve Foundation and others are investing over $6 million in a university research spin-out company, NRT, that is doing the early work to take a sophisticated stimulator device to the market. They have a long way to go, but we are pushing full steam ahead. And by adopting a creative venture philanthropy approach, we're attracting far more people than our donor base has ever been able to do before, going for institutional and individual investors who want to make an impact with their investments and transform the future field. As we think about the future, about the promise of this work and the path ahead, the work that is happening here at Next Step in the here and now becomes even more important. Every time we talk to the researchers at Louisville, they tell us that while they are excited about the device, the lesson they have learned is that activity-based therapy matters, that it changes lives by helping people get functional recovery and improved health outcomes. To us, that is a mission, it is a charge, and we are focused on growing the power of that network so that more people can access the type of therapies that you're delivering here in Orlando. As we learn or reaffirm some things that some of us have suspected for a long time, how important activity-based therapies are to people with paralysis, we have to change the reality of how people think about this therapy in the here and now. Matt, you mentioned this talking about your dad 29 years ago. The depressing reality is that not that much has changed. Too many people today finish rehab and are sent home with no option to continue their hard work. Others who want to stay active have to make a really hard choice between returning to work or returning to school or staying in a rehab center so they can maintain their physical activities. And even for those who do live near a rehab center or a specialized gym, insurance usually doesn't cover these activities. I see almost all of the people here nodding your heads. It is unbelievable, but despite the progress that we see and the health outcomes that we see, insurance companies don't cover this. That makes this dinner important. It makes the work that Next Step is doing even more important. Because Next Step is making this therapy available here in the community so that folks can return home, return to work, return to school. And through the scholarship work that people like the Sklusek family are doing, and you are supporting with your tickets here tonight, scholarships are helping make this affordable so that people can make it part of their daily lives. At the Reeve Foundation, we're focused on taking the lessons from Next Step and our other members of the Neuro Recovery Network to grow the NRN into a bigger network around the country. We recently undertook a 3-month design sprint with Morgan Stanley, who donated over 100 hours of pro bono consulting services from multiple different teams to develop a growth plan for the Neuro Recovery Network to expand to more communities around the country. We envision a network that deploys the best evidence-based therapies for people living with paralysis. A network that feeds back data from what's happening at community centers like the center here to inform the research and help shape best practices. More than just shaping best practices, we're trying to collect your data and your stories. At the national level, we are focused on a campaign to try and get insurers to cover these treatments, to get it recognized with a Medicaid reimbursement code so that we can have more people getting affordable, accessible care.
Yes, exactly.
And a network that will be ready when the technological advances that I talked about are ready to come to market, and we need to couple them with sophisticated therapists and trainers who can help deliver high-quality interventions to make them work. So you've seen tonight, and we'll see even more after I'm done, the powerful impact that Next Step is having on people's lives. But what I hope I've helped to demonstrate is that when you're supporting this site, you're not solely supporting the people that come to visit this in Orlando. The work being done at Next Step is contributing to a growing understanding of the best practices in the field. We've used the phrase gold standard a couple times now, but we mean it. Not every facility follows best practices. There are ways to cut corners, but the quality of the work that is being done by trainers, just like the ones at that table there, really matters. And what's happening at Next Step is high quality work that you're investing in, that all of you who are clients are putting the time in to do, and that is so important. So the work being done at Next Step is contributing to best practices. The stories being collected at Next Step are helping us build the case for insurance. And the leadership being shown at Next Step is so important to us as we continue to prove that this business model can work with the engaged support of the community, so we can build out more centers around the country for other people to access. So, thank you for your support tonight. Please keep it up. Matt's about to put a lot of pressure on you. But Bay as well, he is charming. Support this important institution well into the future so we can all be back here celebrating. To the Next Step team, to the Next Step family and your clients, thank you for including me in your amazing celebration. 10 years is a huge achievement, but I know that the work is only just beginning for all of us, and we're here for you along the way. So thank you.